Be good to go. Okay. So lessons learned in joy. I shortened it up to lessons in joy. And this is my first time as a Badger Talks presentation. So I've done joy for many, many years. And how I can say that is in Outagamie County, we've had something called the Joy Conference since 1975. And so 2020 marked 45 years of joy. Now, I have not been there or at the Joy Conference for those 45 years, but I have been there for 30. This was my 30th year. And so we averaged about 500 people every year with 3 keynote speakers. So when I did some calculations there, all of a sudden it was like, wow, that's a lot of people that have been looking for joy in their lives over the course of the years. And we've had a variety of speakers of all different walks of life, life experiences, and what they've learned through those trials and tribulations and all the things that life has to offer. And so, given that time, I've learned from those speakers. And um, I found that joy it's important to listen, to learn, and practice to see what fits for your life and your value systems. One size does not fit all. I used to have a pair of pantyhose that was supposed to be one size fits all, and I lost it over time, but it was like definitely not going to fit me. And that's kind of what you need to do in finding that resiliency in your life of what have you learned over time, because we've got life experiences, but what are we doing to move forward in our life and appreciating the moments and the things that have happened. And this talk that I'm sharing with you, this wisdom that I've gathered over my 30 years here in Outagamie County, um, you know, it's varied, and 2020 has been a year like no other. And I think you could all agree with that we never thought 2020 would be what it is. And what have we learned? But one of the first speakers that I remember from the Joy Conference was a woman named Marilyn Berger, and she talked about the importance of never leaving home without your shoelaces. Now, if you look down at the shoe, maybe you've got slippers on today, but maybe you don't even have, maybe you just have your socks on. I don't know what you're wearing. But if you think about a pair of shoes that has shoelaces, when we were little kids, oftentimes our shoes didn't have Velcro, we had shoelaces. And Marilyn always said in her presentations, never leave home without your shoelaces. And it's been something that I've been able to remember and build on over time. And so those shoelaces, each of those letters stands for something. So I'm going to just briefly go over those kind of key components because that's one of those life lessons that I've learned in life and in joy that we need to have. So the first thing in shoelaces, the letter S, is our skills. What skills do you have? Some of you are really good at listening. Some of you are good at making things. At the holidays this morning, I had a phone call from a grandmother that wanted to make rum balls without rum. And what would I recommend that she do? And I'm going, well, then they're not rum balls. But you got to kind of think about, okay, so I just, we talked it through and there is rum flavoring that she can use. And it turns out she didn't want to give an alcoholic product to her grandkids that live out in Colorado. So she wanted to have the rum flavor, but not, the alcohol in it. So anyway, we did some problem solving with that. So you have different skills. Some of you are woodworkers. Some of you are very good at, this technology and knowing what to do with the telephone and the computer and all the technology that we have. And some of us are good people persons, or we're good at contributing things in our church and our things that we do at church. But what are your skills? So that's the S in shoelaces. The H is humor, having a sense of humor. And sometimes life gets pretty heavy and we can't find maybe the funny things in life. And it's hard to dig deep and to really appreciate things and the people and the stories that they may experience, and helping to people see the lighter side. And we don't want to laugh at people, but can we laugh with them and laugh at the life experiences? I don't have it with me because it's in my office. Actually, I'm broadcasting from my joy room. Yes, I have a joy room that I had to convert into my office now that we're working virtually. But over the years, 30 years, you can imagine people have given me all kinds of things of joy, like the sign behind me, if you can see it. Um, but so I'm in my joy room. And anyway, at my office, I have this thing that's a potato ricer. And I use it in one of my programs that I do that's been around for many years with Extension, called Who Gets Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate, which is a whole nother program. But the potato ricer is my reminder of a story of a woman that said that her grandmother had a potato ricer, and one of the grandsons inherited the potato ricer and was just so happy to have grandma's potato ricer. And but when he got it, he didn't know how to use it. So he called up his sister and said, so do you cook the potatoes before you put them in here, or do you have to cook them and then press them through? Well, obviously you have to cook the potatoes so that the potatoes will press and you'll get this riced potato. But it's the story and the humor in it, because of how sincere he was about really wanting to have his rice potatoes, but he didn't know how to do it. So sometimes it's that humor and finding the joy in laughter. I mean, if you can laugh about things, it creates those endorphins and makes you feel good about it. Some people are very good at storytelling. Some of us, I'm not a real good joke person because I'll tell the joke with the end of the story before I'm supposed to. So timing isn't always good, but I'm a fairly good storyteller. So sharing those kinds of things are important in our family, and that humor and finding the funny little things, like the woman this morning with the rum balls and making rum balls without rum. Okay, we go with the flow. So humor is important. So if there's a way that you can find some humor in every day, and it might be listening to something, listening to a funny podcast, or watching some kind of a funny old time TV show and going, oh, life was so much simpler with Mayberry RFD, or just laughing with people. Some people stay up late at night to listen to the talk show hosts and laugh through some of the things. And again, that humor is really important. Well, Marilyn also said that the O is for optimism. In your shoelaces and shoelaces of life, where do you find your optimism? And is the glass half full or half empty? I used to teach with a guy, I used to teach middle school, and he was like not the most perkiest, happiest man on earth, but I'd always try to joke around with him a little bit. And I remember one Friday afternoon, I said to him, well, it's the weekend. What are you going to do this weekend? And he went, I don't know. In 2 days, we're going to be back here again on Monday. Now, that's not optimistic. So what do you have to look forward to? And with living in a pandemic, it has been hard. Sometimes it's like, oh, I get to take the garbage out this week. What am I going to wear? Or I have to go to the drive-through. I have to go to the bank and do some banking. You look forward to certain things, and that optimism, is important. Sunshine does help us. It really does. So I'm really happy that today I'm talking about joy and the sun is shining. Because to talk about joy on a cloudy day or a really dreary day is really hard. But to look for the optimism and the good things in life. E is enthusiasm. What can you be enthusiastic about? And some people, my friend Carl, he was like, oh, I don't know, I've got the weekend, but I'm going to be back here. The enthusiasm, the optimism, it wasn't there. And for some people, it takes a little bit to lift them up and help them find that enthusiasm and that joy in what they're doing. The L in shoelaces stands for leadership. And some people are born leaders, and others are maybe more of a servant leader, but you help others. So, how can you help others and lead and be a positive role model? So, maybe it's leadership within your church. Maybe you're on the library board. Maybe you organize a book club. Maybe you're the person that always initiates the emails to a certain group of friends, or you create a group on Facebook. Those kinds of things, you need someone that kind of is in charge. So leadership can bring you joy. And it's knowing what you're good at. And if you're not good, maybe you can ask someone else, can you help me? I'm not very good at this. In extension, we're doing a lot more video kinds of things. Well, I used to do videos, but never a video that I had to produce in my joy room by myself, talking to myself, and then have it go out to all these people. And I'm still learning from that. I'm not an expert by any means, but I've had to stretch myself and ask for some help. And that's a sign of leadership too, knowing that I can't do it all by myself, but we are resilient with that. The A in shoelaces is action. So doing things. What are you going to do to make something happen? And it doesn't just happen overnight. And it is something that you try and think about what's going to make a difference in someone's life. How am I going to make a difference and touch them? C in laces, now we're on the second C, is commitment. So when you say you're going to do something, please do it. Commitment, and sometimes we overcommit ourselves, and that gets a little difficult as well. But commit yourself to what you want to do and what you feel comfortable doing. Many years ago, I was part of a service group, and they made candy during the holidays and sold it. And they found out that I was a home economist by training, so I should know how to make angel candy. And so I said yes, and I did follow through on that commitment, but it wasn't something I really enjoyed. But I helped to teach people how to do it, and some were very skilled at it and very good at that. And so you commit to what you're going to do, and if it's not something you want to commit to for the rest of your life, then help others so that they can continue on if that's something that's important to them. E is energy. And I've done some little videos on the importance of sleep and having the energy to do things. And some of us are sleeping well, and others are waking up at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock. There was a while, I don't know, midsummer, I guess, that I was waking up a couple times during the night. And I did some study on that. I looked at, why am I not sleeping better? And then I found out I was kind of in sync with my neighbors, because I'd get up and I'd look out the window and I'm going, oh, their bathroom light's on too. And it's strange things that you notice in a pandemic that, oh, are we on the same kind of sleep cycle? But finding out where your energy is and what do you enjoy doing and what people do you enjoy being with? And not that we're with a lot of people right now because we're isolating and we're trying to be good about that. But even people that you talk to on the phone, who energizes you, who listens and gives you ideas and affirms who you are. So really important to work on that E and shoelaces of energy. And then finally, service, giving to others and being helpful and looking at what those skills are with your sense of humor and your different kinds of leadership skills to put to action so that you're giving service to others. And service doesn't necessarily mean that you're out doing everything for all kinds of people. It may be, what are you doing for 2 or 3 people? Maybe it's the phone calls that you do. Maybe it's something through church and something that you're delivering little food baskets, or it's all those kinds of things. So it's bringing those skill sets with you as you move forward. Now, what I have, I don't know if you can see it, but this is a rubber band ball. And I have a big toothpick, a skewer. And I use this as a reminder in many of my classes when I talk about resiliency. Sometimes things happen in life, and I never know when I do this what's going to happen. Is it going to break or not? Well, it didn't quite break all the way today. Sometimes it does. And I can get Velcro and duct tape. I can get fancy duct tape now. I found out you can buy all these different colored duct tapes. So I could get duct tape and I could tape this back together, but it's never really going to be what it was. And that's kind of where you think about 2020. We started out with the fresh new year, and by March 13th, Friday the 13th, things started to change. And it was like in Outagamie, we were told, okay, pack up your office. You're going to be working at home for a while. Well, I was thinking 1 week, 2 weeks. Well, now we're on 9 months. And I have been back to the office, and we rotate who goes in and out and that type of thing. So we've made it work. But what happened was, you think about that rubber band ball and resiliency. How did we stretch ourselves in this last couple of months, in 9 months? What did you have to do? And sometimes when I do this, the rubber band breaks, but today it didn't break. It's still stretching. And that's kind of where, when you bring your shoelaces and you think about what your resiliency skills are, how are you stretching yourself? And most of the time the rubber band goes back to its pretty much normal, elasticity. And that's where we have to be more flexible in some of our thinking and ways that we like to do things. So in life, there are 3 types of happiness, and that I'm going to talk about today. You think about a candy bar. Now all you're going to think about it for the next 45 minutes is a candy bar. But think about some sweet kinds of foods maybe. And some people don't like sweets, but it's the 3 types of happiness are a pleasant life, a good life, and a meaningful life. So the pleasant life are all those positive emotions that you have. And we'll talk about that a little bit as we move through this today. The good life is that flow of life and using our strengths and thinking about where we've been and what we appreciate and what's moving forward. And then meaningful life is that higher purpose in life of, where am I? What am I doing? What do I want to move forward with in my family? So it's thinking about the different kinds of happiness that we have. And in a pandemic, finding the joy and happiness may be different than what it was a year ago and where your life is. The joy you feel in striving for happiness is one of the benefits in finding joy. So if you find that joy, more than likely you're going to be 3 times more creative. You're going to be more productive. 31%, one research presenter found. And your energy and your intelligence is going to rise. When you're energized by things and happier, you're going to be more creative. You're going to be thinking outside the box. You're going to be able to look at things in a different light. And that sometimes is very important to people. There's 3 fundamental needs in life. Basically, it's safety, satisfaction, and connection, so that you feel peace, contentment, and love. So that, joy's not listed there. But that joy and those feelings that we have are important, and how we seek and go forward. So one of the things that is important is to sometimes recognize our past emotions. And past emotions, and this was something that from that presentation and the researcher this summer talked about, there are good, past experiences and memories, and that is wonderful to have. I think Karen Goebel maybe is on. She's a friend of mine from American Association of Family Consumer Sciences, and she said that she was reading a book, and Karen, I've got the same book and I'm reading it too. It's called Everything Beautiful in Its Time, and it's by Jenna Bush Hager. So her dad and her grandfather were president of the United States. But it's a good book in that it's looking at her past and appreciating her grandmother and grandparents and people in her life. But it's also recognizing that and moving forward of what did we learn from that. So the past isn't always bad. But my message here is, with joy, if we always look at the past, we may be looking at things that are in the negative. And that's not a positive place to be. And so the present is more important, because the future, sometimes when we look at the future, we have this anxiety of, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And one of the things that has come out now, again, with the pandemic is, we got through Thanksgiving okay, but that was stressful for families because our Thanksgiving wasn't what it was before. And now we've got this future, these emotions, and this like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm apprehensive about this, and my family wants to get together, but I don't want to get together with them. I don't feel safe, and I'm not sure what we should be doing it. So one example of thinking about the future and how you can plan for the future and feel joyful about it is to think about ways that you can modify the holiday season. And we all have different kinds of religious beliefs and backgrounds, or maybe we don't. It's just December, and okay, we'll get through December and move to January. But if you do have some of those traditions and rituals of things that you do with family, perhaps thinking of it in terms of COVID-19 has changed the way I want to celebrate the holiday season. And perhaps your mode of thinking is, I want to be part of Stop the COVID Spread. That's your belief. That's something that's important to you. So you need to express those emotions to others, to your friends and to your family, and to express yourself that way. So perhaps saying, due to our health and age, I'm fearful that we may contract the disease and have a difficult recovery. And you don't even have to use age. But if you do, some of us are in that risk factor category of, being chronologically gifted. And maybe you want to insert that, because I'm chronologically gifted, I'm fearful that we may contract the disease and have a difficult recovery. So you need to sometimes specify then with your loved ones that what your expectations are. And it may be I or we, depending on your household, will not be visiting anyone outside our home in person this season, nor will we be having guests in our home. We would instead love to hear you via phone, card, letter, or virtual visit. So again, you're outlining for the future, we're not going to visit anyone outside of our home, and we're not going to have people coming in, but we would instead love to hear from you via phone, card, letter, or virtual visit. Then you need to move on to the consequence. If we all abide by this, our hope is that we'll stay healthy and have many holidays in the future that we'll be able to enjoy. So giving a reason for the future, not talking about the tension, the pessimism, the powerlessness, but what you hope for the future. And then, of course, using those I messages. I would love a plate of Christmas cookies. Please set them at the back door. Call me when you drop them off or when you're leaving, and I'll come to the door and get them. So it's using those kinds of emotions of things that you used to do, or it does make for sometimes a very sad feeling, and we need to have those feelings, but to recognize what you can do about it so that you live in the present. And that's the message for today, is to think about today and the fulfillment, the serenity that you have. What brings you happiness? What brings you peace? What makes you laugh and gives you courage? What do you really, really appreciate? And it might be things like hope and faith. If you get downtown Appleton, maybe go for a drive on a beautiful day, come to Appleton, we have this huge display of hope, the 4 letters, HOPE, in downtown Appleton. And people are going there and they're posting their pictures with that and sending that to loved ones. Now, you don't have to come to Appleton to find hope. You can find hope wherever you live and wherever you are, but it's kind of a state of mind of thinking about what's important to you and where you're looking at putting your energies. Comparison, and that's where we, looking at the next couple weeks, comparison is the thief of joy. So if you think about, well, last year at this time, or well, in 2015, this is what we did. That sometimes takes away the joy because you're never going to quite get it back. But what you need to recognize are the feelings that you had and the experience of that joy, and not comparing it, but how can you create your new joy? And so looking at life in that perspective is important. Who we are is 50% genetics, 10% outside circumstances, which sometimes we don't have much to do with, like we didn't control this pandemic. But 40% of us are our thoughts and our actions. That you can control. 40% of your life you can control. So how you embrace things, how you look at life, how you respond to people or don't respond to people, those things are really, important to recognize that you are in the driver's seat of where and how you find your joy. And those are some lessons that are pretty strong. And you're also, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, maybe great-great-grandchildren, you are their first teachers oftentimes of how you deal with life and how you look at things and what's important to you. And so the genetics, the outside circumstances, yeah, we really can't always control that. Although even with genetics and health issues, you can control your actions. So what are you eating, or are you exercising, and how are you reaching out? Those all make a difference for many different people. So there's 10 keys to happiness. And, again, it's not one size fits all, but it's how you look at life. So I have to put my hat on. I don't know if you can all see this, but this is my crabby hat. And I don't know if you have a crabby hat, but maybe others will tell you, step back a little bit, what's going on? But it's up to you to decide, how to find your happiness and try to put the crabby hat away, because it's not going to get you ahead in life. So the 10 keys to happiness, and I've got a slide for each of these concepts as we move forward, are the things that are important for us to think about and practice. So the first one is gratitude, of looking for the good things in life. What do you want to be grateful for? And I would venture to guess to think that many of you do have little journals maybe that you're writing in. And I used to journal, and then I got away from it. And then my niece gave me a little book that's 5 years of blank pages. And it's just little spots for 5 years. And that's my gratitude journal. So every night, and you can, depending if you're a morning person or a night person, it might be what you're looking forward to in the morning, and at night, it might be what you appreciate and what was good. So every night for me, my personal journal is to look at what happened today that was good. Now, sometimes you have to dig a little deep to find that joy and that gratefulness. And maybe someone phoned you, it was a phone call. It might be something that happened, something that you got in the mail. But what are those things that you're grateful for? And what do you want to be so that you are happy and that you are grateful for others? This little book now, I'm on my second year of recording, and um, it's been reflective for me as well because not only am I writing what I'm grateful for today, but now I'm going back to a year ago of what I was grateful then. And it makes me think about some of those kinds of joys and times in my life that maybe I didn't appreciate as much as I should have. But at that point in time, I was appreciating that joy. And I'm thinking, well, I wish I could go back to that now. Or, yeah, I didn't even think that was a turning point, but it was. So being grateful and having gratitude for others is really important. Smiling. I forgot my face mask, darn. But the other day I went to the bank and I have been doing other runs, in and out kind of things. So, but I had done, I guess I was at the pharmacy picking up a prescription or something. So I had my face mask on, and then I went to the bank and I had my face mask on. And the guy kind of peered in the window and he said, "Can you take your face mask off?" And I went, "Well, okay, I guess so." And he said, "Well, I just want to make sure that you're you." And at first I was a little bit, well, we're supposed to wear our face masks. I thought, I've got how many things of glass in between me? And I'm glad he did ask, because anybody could be cashing this check with a mask on. So, having that sense of humor again is important. But being able to smile, and again, we are losing this really big time. People are missing out the smiles, the hugs, the interplay with people. You can see if people are smiling through their eyes, kind of, maybe, sort of, but with a glass glare and everything else, it is hard to read people's emotions today. But even when you're talking to someone on the phone, they know, they sense that emotion if you're smiling or not. So smile. So the rule is, if you're 10 feet away from someone, smile. Now with a face mask, I don't know what the rule of thumb is. And when you get 5 feet, say hello. And, doing that with a face mask on, I have to tell you, this summer, my sister stopped in. It was during the day and I was working and I didn't know she was coming. The doorbell rang and I looked out and I saw there was a van in the driveway. So I went to open the door, and this woman is standing there and she's 6 feet away, mask and sunglasses. And I went, "Oh, hi." And she said, "Hi, I wasn't sure if you were busy or not, but I just wanted to drop off some stuff." And one was a vase of flowers. And I went, "Oh, how beautiful." Well, I thought she was from the florist shop because it was a van and she had gotten a different van. So I didn't recognize her van. And she had a jacket on with a little insignia on, but I couldn't really read what the insignia was. I didn't recognize my own sister. And as I'm talking to her, I went, "Well, this is beautiful. These flowers are beautiful. But now I don't know who they're from." And she said, "Well, they're a card, Karen, and they're from us." I went, "From us? I don't know that business. I don't know who that." And I went, "Oh, Julie." And then we laughed, but I felt like when she drove, and we talked a little bit, keeping our social distance. But when she left, I thought, I didn't know my own sister. Well, her hair had grown, and at that point in time, we weren't supposed to go and get her hair cut, and so that power of smiling, after she realized that I didn't know who she was, then she kind of pulled it and she said, "It's Julie." Then I went back and, "Oh," you know, those smiles are so important. And little kids, when you see videos of little kids, or if you're on FaceTime or Skyping with your grandkids or great grandkids, children smile 400 times a day. They are just so generous in how they share their smiles and their love for you. It gives us the endorphins of 200 bars of chocolate. So a smile is not as many calories. So share your smiles as much as you can. And I think we'll appreciate them even more when we don't have to wear the face masks when we're out and about. but also just realize how important that human element is of bringing joy to other people. Smiling through your eyes, smile through your voice, really important. Now, what does nutrition, she had to get that in there, didn't she? But food does bring joy to many people. I mean, they savor and love many of the things that we eat. And so exercise, diet, and sleep, as I had mentioned earlier, are important. And just one of the things to remind you is to stop eating crap. Okay, a little sense of humor here, but try and cut back on the carbonated drinks, your refined sugars, the artificial foods, and the processed foods. Try and think of those fresh vegetables. And last week, one way I was feeling really stressed, it was before Thanksgiving. I think it was Monday, and I was just feeling really restless. And it was like I knew I wasn't going to be able to get together with family in person. We did have a family Zoom dessert time, but I was just feeling out of sorts. And it was a cold day. So I decided to make vegetable soup. And I had a break. I didn't have a meeting from 12 to 1:30. So I took a long lunch hour, which I still try to stick to my work schedule because I'm just that kind of work ethic kind of person. But so I decided to make vegetable soup, and I started chopping those vegetables and chop, 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 chop. And I felt good after I had that vegetable soup. All the vegetables, everything was all chopped up and cut, and let that put that on the stove and let it simmer all afternoon, and I could smell and savor that. So sometimes it's the food preparation that brings us joy too. I have an institute director who I've never heard of this before, but maybe, I'm not in Madison, but she cooks by music, and she bought a cookbook that gives you a playlist to listen to as you prepare different recipes. And it's a neat concept. It's like a whole different experience of your senses of knowing how to appreciate the good food that you're making, but then also bring that in through the senses of music and different things. And you're not going to get that from eating the artificial foods and the processed foods. So exercise, good diet, and sleep. And what are your signature strengths? What are you good at? And the website here, www.viacharacter.org, is a great place to go. They're not selling you product. It's a place where you can go in and you answer questions about who you are and how you make decisions and what you value in life, kind of thing. And it comes up with your top characteristics of who you are. And when I did it, I'm always skeptical of those things. I don't like to do that on Facebook because that's giving away all kinds of things about who you are, and you can set up for all kinds of scams and different things like that. But this is something that is really a good way to think about building on your strengths to bring you joy and resiliency in your life. Because if we always think about, well, I can't do this and I can't do that anymore, and I really don't want to do this anymore, you're on the negative. You're concentrating on the negative. And by doing this little exercise, going in and doing this, finding where your strengths are, you build on your strengths, and that helps you bring that sunshine to your life. Figure out what's important to you, and that's going to help key in your strengths in so many different ways. So www.viacharacter.org. The other thing to think about is, how do you start your day in a positive way? So sometimes, this is my little hat. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like, what do you do for yourself, and how do you start out your day? Do you start it out with negative news? Do you listen to music that you like to listen to? Are you reading something? Are you doing yoga? Are you doing meditation or prayer or going for a walk? What are you doing to start your day out? And in one of the books that I've been reading, I was in a study group with, it's called Purposeful Retirement. A really great book, maybe beyond maybe where you're at, but maybe to share with someone would be a nice, a good book study kind of group thing, I think, too. And it's written by Hiram Smith, who also wrote 10 Natural Laws of Successful Time and Life Management. But he was a friend of Stephen Covey. And he talks about how you view life. And if you're newly retired, your work maybe was who you were and how you identified who you are. And now you need to find some new playmates, not workmates, but playmates. You need to find some new ways of starting life out, of thinking life in a different way, of maybe welcoming 2021, the new year, because we're all hopeful that it's going to be a better day. But I was getting to the point, and I'm not going to dwell on politics, but I'm just going to say this. Even last January and February, I gave up listening to my public radio in the morning because I didn't want to start the day with more political news. I could do it later in the day, but I didn't want to start my day that way. So how do you start your day? Is it to music? Is it to listening? Now, sometimes if you're driving, you need to listen to the weather if you're in Wisconsin, but how do you start your day? What is it that gives you a lift? When we started out with this COVID, as I said, March 13th, I thought it was just going to be for a couple weeks. And then it was, well, a couple months. Well, then summer. Well, now we're going into 2021. Our county has said that we probably will not return to our offices until March 31st, 2021, and then it will be reevaluated. But for now, we're working virtual, and it is working good, but you're working at home all the time. And one of the classes I took talked about the importance of how you start your day. So with some of these things that I've got listed on this slide, but she also went on to say, think about it. When you're going to start your day, oftentimes you're leaving the house. Well, if you're retired, you may not be leaving your house, but you still need to leave your house. Even if it's not a physical leave your house, it's like it's shifting gears. So what this speaker told us to do was in the morning, if you can, get outside, go for a walk, and come in a different door. If you have two doors to your house or to your apartment or to your condo, come in a different door. Like, okay, now I'm starting my day. This is my work. And I was thinking, oh yeah, right. That's just mind games, but it makes a difference. And it may not just be because you're going outside, but it's because you're shifting gears, you're getting fresh air, you're doing something a little bit different. So think about how you start your day to build your resiliency skills and make it a conscious effort, because that's going to be very important. So I guess for a time there, my newspaper delivery person must have known that I needed to get outside, because there were mornings I couldn't find my paper. It was in the bushes, or it was in front of the driveway and the door, or it was my hide and seek time. And I wasn't happy about it, but I was bending, I was stretching, I was walking around, and I found my paper. Well, now my paper is back to where it always was delivered, but now I still go outside and I still get that walk in the morning and try and get some of that fresh air, because that's going to make a difference in how you start your day. Find your flow, find where you use your strengths and your energies. How do you get into your zone? Use your gifts and your talents of what you're good at. I play French horn, and I play French horn on Wednesday nights with a community band, and I've missed it. I've missed it terribly. But what I found is that I can go online and play my French horn with other people. So sometimes there's ways to do that. Some of you may be singers, and people have found ways to have virtual choir practice. I listened to a church in Oshkosh last night that had just that. They were singing in their church, because we're not supposed to, singing is dangerous with the COVID. So they were socially distanced in this church, but everybody listening could hear them. And it was only 3 singers, so it was pretty much in sync. But finding your flow of what you do, what makes you happy, and how you're going to be able to do things that you're comfortable with and feel like you're sharing your gifts and your talents. Meditate. And this means different things to different people, but it may be just a prayer time. It's a time for you to sit and think. I grew up on a farm, so we weren't supposed to sit and think. You were just supposed to do. You had to get the cows milked, and you had to do this, and and we had these huge to-do lists. And we took very little time to focus until we did get to church or until we took a drive. So the Sunday afternoon drives was actually, I think, my mom and dad's way of helping us to meditate, because we would get in the car and we would go for a Sunday drive. And it just helps you to see things in a different light. So I call that think and drive. Now, it could be dangerous in Madison. I don't think you want to do a think and drive in Madison, on the Beltline or anything like that. But if you can go out and find places to drive or go to a park and just sit for a while. And, some people say, yeah, I love to watch kids play. Well, be a little careful with that, because people might think that there's something strange if you're just sitting there watching kids play. But sometimes it's just getting out and seeing something different, because that meditation is going to help to clear your brain and help you focus on what's really important. The breathing, there's lots of breathing exercises, and I would think that through your activities, through your programs, that you're involved in a variety of different kinds of things that help you to meditate and breathe and take advantage of that. Sometimes it's just music and listening to certain kinds of music that slows the heart down. The random acts of kindness. Think about things that you can do. Kindness, gratitude, it goes a long way. Of just reaching out to someone, a special note, an email, a phone call, and just doing things because you're doing it. You're not doing it so that people will see you do it. It's because you're trying to reach out to someone. And sometimes you have to be a little creative in how you're doing it. So, and everybody has different skills of what they can do and how they reach out to others. The next concept is letting go of grudges, and that's something our joy speakers over the years have really talked about. You have to forgive. You have to move on, because if you continue to hold grudges, you're not going to be able to move forward in life. Moving on with life makes you feel so much better. And sometimes, that program I talked about, Who Gets Grandma's Pie Plate? I've had people tell me life stories about things that their families have disputed. A Shirley Temple little picture. They went to court for that. Well, the Green Bay Packer tickets, but that's a whole different thing. But the Green Bay Packer tickets and a Shirley Temple picture was the disagreement and argument in the family. And when you think about it, it's like, really? Is that what life is about? So think about ways that you can deal with things. And people have given me wonderful stories of things that they've done. So one holiday story that one woman shared with me was, and I think this would work in a pandemic, because, we're really not supposed to go out and go shopping. So one woman told me she's going to go shopping at home this year. Okay, tell me more. And she's going shopping at home in her cupboards and her closets, and she's finding things for loved ones. And she's writing a story about the various items that she's going to give, putting the story with the item, wrapping it up, and that's going to be their Christmas gift. Now, my mom did this about 8 years ago when my niece got married. And it was a cake plate that had been in the family since mom and dad got married, which was at that point in time 60 years old, I think, 60 years anniversary. Well, maybe it was before their 60th. But anyway, at any rate, she found this cake plate that she hadn't used in a number of years, but it was a cake plate that had been used for showers and different kinds of celebrations, and Easter and Christmas. And that was where the cake went, the birthday cake or anniversary cake. And so she wrote where the cake plate came from and why it was important to her and why she was gifting it to her first granddaughter to get married, that was getting married. The day of the shower, for some reason, that present didn't come out. It was, and they had all the presents and they're bringing them out and bringing them out. And I keep going, oh, where is it? Where is it? And my mom was getting nervous because she thought, I'm only giving her a cake plate after she saw these extravagant kinds of shower gifts. And finally, it was the last gift and that came out. And they said, well, this is from Grandma. And no one except me and my mom knew what was in that box. So we had wrapped it in a tablecloth that had been my mom's, in a box, in a tablecloth, over it with a nice ribbon. And so she opened it up, and now Emily had gotten wonderful shower gifts and she was very thankful, but she read it and she cried. And then when she shared it with others, and I'm getting emotional, when she shared with others, we were all crying because it was part of the heritage, but represented the joyful times in our life. So don't think you have to spend a lot of money on gifts. It's your time, it's your energy, and it's the things that you have to offer. Oh, I didn't think that was going to hit me so hard today, but we're in a pandemic. Okay. So staying alive. Important for you to look at social integration as much as you can in a pandemic. Think about your relationships and how they can become even closer. What can you do? What can you do to open the doors and let people know that you're there? Get the flu shot. I hope most of you have gotten the flu shot, and then it's your decision as when the rest of the immunizations come out of what you're going to do. Get rid of your bad habits. Think about that exercise and being lean versus overweight. Think about your blood pressure and get clean air. Get fresh air. Get outside. Enjoy the sunshine. Enjoy those birds and the wildlife and everything that life has to offer. So thank you so much. I'm Karen Dickrell, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And just a couple other books that I'd recommend. One is that Purposeful Retirement. And in there is a funny story. There's a chapter on organ recitals. And I'm going, well, I like music. Why wouldn't I want to go to organ recitals? Well, what they're talking about is be wary of people that start to talk about their organs, of their heart, and all you hear is what's the latest health ailments that they have. So refrain from organ concerts this holiday season, and even in the future. Think about maybe there's one or two friends that you can talk to and share what's happening with your health, because you do need someone to talk about. But not everyone wants to hear your organ concert. So that was a little funny. The other book that I talked about was Jenna Bush and the Everything Beautiful in Its Time, of really appreciating the richness of the life that we have, because it's not always the gifts that we give, it's the presence of who we are and what we can give to others and how we appreciate that joy. Another book is called Keep Moving by Maggie Smith. Keep moving. And it's not a hard read at all. I mean, it's not big words, but it's thoughts for the day. So I got this because I sometimes have 6 or 7 Zooms a day. Yeah, right. And so I have this handy and I read a thought for the day of just keep moving, of what can we do to be positive in life. And then I'm also reading Your Hidden Superpower, the kindness that makes you unbeatable at work and connects you with anyone. So it's just being, how do you give that act of kindness? How are you reaching out to other people to share the gifts that you have with others? So, and I haven't been monitoring my questions. There aren't any questions there. I'm looking in the chat.
Thank you, Karen, so very much.
Yeah. So any questions or comments from anyone? I do a Glimmers of Joy monthly email. So if anyone is interested in signing up for that, you can email me at karen.dickrell@wisc.edu. I'll put it in the chat. Oops.
Very good.
And this month, when I did it, it was kind of for the holidays, but sadly we lost one of our Joy Committee members to COVID. So it was a very emotional kind of outreach. But Elaine was our jokester. So she was always the after lunch, pick me up kind of little storyteller. And yeah, she lost her life to COVID, but it was a great tribute to her. And along with that, I put on a song, a link to a Bon Jovi song. So if you're into Bon Jovi, I've never really listened to much Bon Jovi, but he has a song that he says, if you can't do what you do, then do what you can. It's powerful. Okay.
Excellent. Would you be able to share the books?
Yeah, how can I do that, Lisa? Can I send you the books or the list? And
that would be great. We'll put that in an email and we'll send that out with a link to the YouTube video for everyone, if that works.
Okay.
Let's see, did anyone else have any other questions? This was such a great experience filled with so much.
You know, if people have their experiences to share too, of how you find the joy, when I'm in smaller groups and when I'm in person, it's a much different kind of thing because you feed off of each other and it's so powerful, but we did the best we could with our technology.
Well, Karen has her hand raised and so does Natalie. So.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Karen.
Oh, I just wanted to share this John Wesley quote that goes along with what Karen just said. And it's John Wesley, as in the founder of Methodism. Okay. And it's this do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. I love that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you,
Good to
Karen.
hear your voice.
Well, we've got Natalie and David.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, David.
Hello, Lisa. Natalie and I are here. Thanks for a great presentation, Karen. And thanks for organizing it, Lisa. Is there a way of getting just hard copies of your slides?
Yeah, I think I could share them with Lisa and
Terrific.
She could share them.
I will pass those along.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
That's a really nice compliment.
You're welcome.
Have a good weekend. And we have Cindy is wanting to ask a question.
Well, I have a comment on how to share joy. I joined the Coffee and Conversations at the Monona Center, and we tripped upon sharing stories of Thanksgiving, about the frozen turkey that slid across the cement floor under the car, about the grandmother, the woman that had a grandmother that shared a story from, I don't know, the early 19 whatever. She was flying and she was wearing an inflatable bra. And as they got higher in altitude, the plane wasn't pressurized and the bra started to expand until it popped. The pilot came out with a gun. They had a forced landing. She had to explain not only in English, but then in Spanish why she was wearing an inflated bra, and then got a $400 bill for a forced landing. We were laughing off our seats.
Thank you, Cindy.
Just, we all have those stories. We just have to ask. Or the first person shares and the rest join in.
Yes.
Thank you, Cindy.
It's bringing those shoelaces, that sense of humor.
That's right. Now we have Ann. She has a comment question. Ann, are you here?
I'm here. I'm here.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you, Lisa, for getting this done. I have giggled and laughed about a lot of your comments, and they're just the biggest thing out of this for me was the shoelaces. I wrote it down, and all those things are, I don't know what they call it, but when you have a short version of a whole bunch of things.
Yep.
And it was very, very valuable and will still be very valuable. And thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ann. Well, what a fabulous way to start the weekend, Karen. And
Yes.
you and I will be coordinating. I'll send you the link for the recording, and we'll keep in touch, that's for sure.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you again. And everyone, have a great weekend.